Hello everybody, my name is Amina and I'm a second year physics student from the University of Leicester, and I'm here to tell you all about the day in the life of a physics student. Now usually when I tell people that I'm a physics student, they look at me like I'm a little bit mad, and I'm gonna assume that you had that reaction too. And then by the end of the video I'm hoping you'll be convinced that being a physics student is just so much fun. I absolutely love it, and I hope that you'll be able to see that by the end of the video. And so I'm going to take you through the day in the life of a physics student and show you how amazing it is. The biggest flex when it comes to being a physics student is that it's absolutely amazing to know that you can look at things after you've studied them, just everyday situations, and know the science behind it. Like I can play football, for example, and I'll know what's happening there, I'll know which forces are involved, or I can look out at the stars at night, and as beautiful as they seem, I actually know the science behind them, and that absolutely amazes me, and that's what I love so much about my course. It's amazing. Aside from this amazing flex that we have as physics students of being able to know how everyday situations work, studying as a physics student is also very interesting because of the variation of classes that we have. So no day is the same as the next, every day is quite different. So as a physics student, we go through lectures, tutorials, seminars, workshops and lab work. And our day usually starts at around 10 AM with 2 lectures, so each lecture lasts an hour. And these are just like being taught information in a classroom. So this is our lecturers giving us information on a particular module. And then aside from our lectures, we also have to do some extra reading. So this is where our books come in. For example, this one over here. This book became my best friend in first year. It's absolutely amazing, but it's so heavy, honestly. But seriously, why do you need the gym when you could literally just, be a physics student? But other than reading and lectures, we have something called workshops, which happen twice a week, and these last 2 hours. Now workshops are definitely the most favourite part of my week, and this is because we work in groups of 3 or 4 friends to solve questions based on some of the physics that we've learnt that week. And so it's basically like talking about the subject that you love for 2 hours straight with your friends, and it's so much fun to be able to work through physics problems in a group. And these are also really useful for the future, because when you go into a career in physics, for example, then you're going to have to work as a team to solve physics questions, and so it's really useful to embed that into your everyday life. But also because our lecturers are there for the 2 hours, so it's great that if a question ever pops into our head, we can just ask them straight away. As well as lectures or workshops, we also attend weekly classes called tutorials. Now this is where we discuss any personal or academic matters that we might have with a member of staff from the physics department, and this could be stuff like personal, like finance, housing, or it could be academics, or any questions that we have about the course that we're unclear about, anything we don't understand from any of the material that we've learned. And if we don't have anything to discuss with the tutor, then they oftentimes talk about their research, which is really interesting to hear about real-time physics firsthand from researchers. So they are really interesting classes to attend as well. The last 2 types of classes that we have are labs and seminars. So labs are where we do experiments in the labs with a lab partner, so that would be somebody else from our class. And these are really fun. These are amazing because we're doing the physics that we learn in the classroom, we're putting it into practice in real life, and we're seeing real results. So it's not just something we're learning and then dismissing, we're actually watching the machines work and bring these theories to life and prove that they're right. And then seminars are basically, we're given weekly homework questions to take home with us and to do, and then seminars happen once a week where we go through these homework questions with a PhD student, and they give us the correct answers and the correct way to work them out. So that's based off of homework that we take home. Depending on what time I finish on a given day, so for example this could be as early as 12 PM, or sometimes it could be as late as 5 PM in the evening. I like to do things in my free time on campus, which is very important in university life. And one of these things is to visit the Students' Union. So the Students' Union is like an organisation on campus where we create societies. So it could be a society of common interest, for example like Harry Potter. And then we have events there as well. So if you created a Harry Potter society, you'd create like an event for people to attend. There's also food outlets, there's also places to like chill and hang out there, so there's sofas. And then there's also like a well-being centre to help you find housing for the next academic year. So it's a really amazing place, and I absolutely love the Students' Union because I have been able to use it to encourage other people to join STEM. What I love the most about the Students' Union, however, is the ability for me to express myself on campus using them. So when I started at university, I realised that there weren't many females in the physics department, and there weren't many people of colour like myself in the physics department. And it can be a bit scary when you're starting somewhere new and there aren't many people that look like you. And now that I'm very comfortable in the physics department and I absolutely love it there, and there was no reason for me to be scared, but I just wanted to ensure that future female physicists or future physicists of colour that joined campus didn't feel like this, and they knew that they didn't have to feel like this. And so at the beginning of second year, which is this year, me and my friends started something called the Women in STEM Society on behalf of the Students' Union. So this is where we basically came together and we decided to create events and invited all female scientists to speak. As well as getting female scientists to speak, we also did something called networking events. So this is where we invited loads of females that worked in science. So for example, some worked for Airbus, some worked for the European Space Agency, and we got them to talk to other female scientists on campus about their experiences as scientists and what they had to do as female scientists to get to where they were. And it's just really, really nice to have a platform for other female scientists on campus and future female scientists to feel like they belong, and also just scientists of colour to show the diversity of STEM that we don't normally see. Growing up as a person of colour, I didn't often see a lot of science. I saw a lot of Einstein, who's absolutely amazing, but I didn't see a lot of people that looked like myself, and I went into science not knowing that there were many people like this. So being able to bring this to campus has been so much fun. As well as this, in my free time, I do something called STEM Ambassadors. So this is where, on behalf of the university, we go around to primary schools in Leicester and we talk about what it's like to be a scientist, what it's like to be a female scientist. So it's a lot of fun to be able to know that I can help future generations. And it's very good to know that while I'm at university, that there are organisations that are really looking to help other people get into STEM. So this has been absolutely amazing. And just to show people that it is possible and that I am doing it, and people often make it sound hard, but it's really not. As a child, I always thought that maths was hard. When I was in primary school, maths was always my hardest subject. But when I got to GCSE, I realised that it was actually the easiest subject, and I just thought it was hard because everybody made me think that. And so going to primary schools and letting children know this has been absolutely amazing and so much fun. So as well as supporting younger students on campus and just in Leicester generally in STEM, I also do a lot of other stuff on campus. So I started a society for breast cancer charity. I also visit the gym, despite the fact that I have a very heavy book. I still visit the gym on campus, and that's a lot of fun to kind of do something different. As much as I love physics, I know it's very important to keep a healthy balance of other stuff as well. So I do visit a lot of the gym. I do a lot of sports societies, for example, and then I also have jobs on campus. So one of my jobs is as an ambassador. So that is where, for example, I work on open days to welcome guests to the campus, and I also work as a peer mentor for the Students' Union. So this is where I supervise the first year students and just make sure that they're going through university okay. So there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot more on campus than just study, which is important. What is really amazing about university life, particularly as a physicist, is that there's a lot of opportunities you can create for yourself. So as well as the jobs that we do on campus or the societies that we can create, there's a lot of opportunities we can create within physics ourselves. So for example, if you love to stargaze, we have observatories that we can use, and this is to gaze at the night sky. We just book them out and we can go and use them. As well as that, we have something called supercomputers, so we use them to do coding, and if we really enjoyed our coding modules, we're allowed to use supercomputers to further this outside of the classroom. And then we have like a lot of a good relationship between the staff and the students. So we have a common room which is shared by staff and students, and that's a really great way to kind of bring down the barriers between academic staff and students, and just like kind of chill out with your teachers, which I noticed you don't get a lot of at school, so that's really great too. Coming to university also means that you're going to have to choose where to live. So all universities have university accommodation. So my university has two types. We have one that is slightly further away, which is a 40 minutes walk, and then we have one that is about a 10 minutes walk to the university campus, and people decide where to stay depending on what kind of person they are. And then personally, I stayed at home where I've lived all my life with my parents, because that's based in Leicester anyway. And then that kind of just depends on how far you are from the university if you decide to stay at home. When you're going to university, if you do decide to stay at home, people often ask me if I feel like I've missed out on the university experience. Honestly, I don't think I have, because even though I'm living at home, I've made sure I've got myself involved in as much as possible, in as many societies, as many events as possible, and I haven't restricted myself just because I'm living at home. So that is always an option too. Student finance is also something that you will learn about at school when you're coming to university in sixth form, for example. And this is all about how to fund your time at university. So if you're living away, how are you going to pay for your living expenses? How are you going to pay for your course? And this all comes under student finance. So as a university student, we get two loans called tuition fee loan and maintenance loan. Tuition fee loan goes directly from the government finance department, and they go straight to the university, so you don't have to worry about that, and that pays off for your tuition fees, and then you pay that off later when you get a job. And then you also have maintenance loan that's given to you by the government to cover all of your living expenses, and then your individual universities will also have scholarships and bursaries. When I was coming to university, something that I was really worried about was, for example, on my course was the mathematics. So will I be able to cope with the maths? And also because I knew there was a lot of lab work involved in university, and I hadn't really done much lab work before. But when you come to university, it doesn't matter what course you do, but in my course, for example, it was the physics and the lab work. The first year of university is all about bringing everybody up to the same speed. So it's nothing to worry about. The gap between A-levels or college and university is a lot smaller than the gap between GCSEs and college. And the first year of university is you're learning mostly all of the same content that you learned at A-level, with just a tiny bit of new content on top. But it's really, really fun, and it's really helpful that the staff are really willing to kind of always back you up and always be there for you whenever you need a hand, so it's not something to worry about. All in all, I hope that I have been able to convince you that being a physics student is a lot of fun and not scary like people make out all the time, and it's an absolutely amazing subject to be able to learn stuff in the classroom, go out into the real world, and then the world just becomes like a play box. Everything just makes sense to you in terms of physics, and it's absolutely amazing. Also, just have showed you that what an amazing experience I've had at university, and I hope that everybody can have such an amazing experience, and just to really immerse yourself in the university lifestyle when you get to university, just to make the most of it and to express yourself in ways you haven't been able to express yourself before. So thank you very much for watching, and good luck with the applications or whatever else that you're doing.